Welcome! Glad to see you've come back for the next lecture. In the Chapter 3 lecture, we discussed project management structures and their strengths and weaknesses, and the role the organizational culture plays in managing projects. In this chapter, we're going to explore defining the scope of a project, work breakdown structure, and communication plans. This lecture brings us to Chapter 4, Defining the Project. Once you determine a project needs to be created, there are 5 steps you will want to complete. This will help you understand what you are doing and whether the project needs to move forward. Step 1, define the project scope. Step 2, establish project priorities. Step 3, create the work breakdown structure. Step 4, integrate the work breakdown structure with the organization. And Step 5, code the work breakdown structure for the information system. The first step is to define the project scope. But what is project scope? It's a detailed description of the end result of the project. It typically includes project objectives, deliverables, milestones, project specifications, technical specifications, and limits and exclusions, all in specific, tangible, and measurable terms. The scope should be developed under the direction of the project manager and client. Why is a scope statement important? It helps to clearly define the deliverable to the end user and project sponsor. The statement focuses on successful completion of the project and is used to measure project success. But what happens when there isn't a clear project scope? Research shows that 50% of project planning issues relate back to unclear definition of scope and project goals. The project scope is the most important document of the project plan. Using this checklist ensures that the scope definition is complete. The first step is to create your project objective. This will define the overall objective of the project in order to meet your customer's need. The objectives answer the questions of what, when, and how much. Next, you need to define what the deliverables are for the project. These are the major outputs created over the life cycle of the project. Be sure to identify the project milestones. These are significant project events that occur at points throughout the project. A milestone schedule shows only major segments of work and is built using the project deliverables. Once you've identified the milestones, you'll need to record the technical requirements. These are the technical specifications of the end product that must be built into the plan. For example, speed and capacity of a database, or speed and accessibility of a wireless network. This ensures proper performance of the end product, service, or results. You now need to list out the project's limits and exclusions. These are statements calling out those items that are not in the scope of the project. Without these statements, stakeholders can make false assumptions and put unrealistic expectations on the project team. The last step is to review the checklist and your scope statement with your customer. The project manager seeks understanding and agreement from the customer that the scope is correctly stated. The project manager also seeks the customer's confirmation that the schedule, budget, and key accomplishments are accurately defined. This does not act as official approval to move forward, but does allow the project manager to move to the next step. An easy way to summarize what should be contained within the project scope statement is to think about the who, what, when, and where. Combining this with the checklist will ensure you have a well thought out and planned scope statement. Here are a few items you'll need to be familiar with as we talk about defining a project. When the project scope list has been completed, you will have the information necessary to fully create your scope statements, also called statements of work. It is supplied by the vendor who will be performing project work for the performing organization. It identifies what the vendor will do to achieve the goals of the project. When the scope statement has been approved by the performing organization, a project charter is created. It officially declares the project and authorizes the project manager to initiate and take charge of the project. It may include items such as known risks, customer needs, spending limits, general dates of milestones and delivery of the end product, result, or solution, and may even name some specific resources to be part of the project team. Project creep is a term that describes the tendency for the project scope to expand over time. A change in requirements, specifications, or priorities are the main culprits. It can add risk, cost, and schedule delays in most instances. It can be reduced by carefully writing the scope statement with as much detail as possible. In my line of work, we create statements of work for every project we do. It is crucial that we list what is and what is not included in the project. Many customers assume that the quote we provide them with is enough to complete the project, even if changes are made after the statement of work has been signed and approved. When project creep begins, it can start with the customer deciding to change the objectives of a training course or providing different technical specifications after work has begun. We often point back to the statement of work to explain what is and what is not included in the project. And if they'd like to make change, it will require additional money and will likely impact the schedule as well. To my surprise, most customers fully understand the implications, and while they're not thrilled, they express understanding. Once you've received the go-ahead for the project, you, as the project manager, need to establish project priorities. But before we go into that, we need to understand some terms involved in project priorities. You may have heard the phrase good, fast, cheap. Pick two because you can't have all three. This phrase is exactly what project trade-offs is all about. The image on the slide shows the criterion. You can see there's not a section where all three overlap. One item has to give in order to achieve the other two. This figure shows the choices faced in project management trade-offs. It is sometimes referred to as the project triangle. Again, you can see that the trade-offs listed here are scope, cost, time, and quality. Most projects will face changes to their priorities. It's the project manager's responsibility to manage the priorities of project trade-offs, often with the customer's input. One way to manage the change in priorities is to consider constraints, a parameter that is a fixed requirement and cannot or will not change. Enhance, placing a criterion over all others. What is the most important piece of the project? Accept, reducing or not meeting a criterion requirement. Following are some items which may cause the project to shift its priorities. Performance issues may include unexpected technical problems, insufficient resources, and quality problems. Cost issues may include scope of work increases, initial bids are too low, and corrective control is not exercised in time. The time issues may include tasks taking longer than planned, and initial time estimates were optimistic. Developing a decision priority matrix before the project begins is useful in that it provides clear priorities with the customer and top management. It creates shared expectations and helps to avoid misunderstandings. It's essential to the planning process where adjustments are often made to scope, schedule, and budget. This example shows that performance is a constraint in this project. The project must ensure that the performance solution is met without variance. Time should be enhanced to shorten the time to market for the project, and in doing so, exceeding cost is acceptable, although never desirable. At this point, you've defined your project scope and established project priorities. The next step is to create a work breakdown structure. But what is a work breakdown structure? In very simple terms, it's a map of the project. It's the process of defining the relationship of the final deliverable, the project, to its subdeliverables, and in turn, their relationship to packages. Work breakdown structures are best suited for design and build projects with tangible outcomes rather than process-oriented projects. It's a hierarchical breakdown of the work to be done by the project team. Each descending level of the work breakdown structure represents a more detailed definition of the project deliverable. The actual planned work is found at the lowest level in the work breakdown structure called work packages. Here's a visual look at the hierarchical breakdown of the work breakdown structure and its associated description. You can see that it starts with the largest deliverable, the project, and works its way down to the smallest deliverables, work packages. The work breakdown structure serves the project manager in many ways. It helps with the evaluation of cost, time, and performance of the organization of a project. It helps provide management with information at each level and assists in assigning project responsibilities to organizational units and individuals. The work breakdown structure helps the project manager manage the plan, schedule, and budget. It defines the communication channels and assists in coordinating the various project elements. Here's an example of a work breakdown structure. At level 1, you have the project, the eSlim tablet prototype. This can be broken down to level 2 deliverables. These can be broken down into smaller work groups, level 3, all the way down to level 5 items, the lowest manageable subdeliverables. These subdeliverables are broken down into work packages. We saw work packages in the previous slide, directly below the lowest sub-deliverables of the work breakdown structure. Each work package defines the work to be done, the what, identifies how long it will take to complete the work package, identifies the time-phased budget to complete the work, or cost, identifies the resources needed to complete the work package, how much, identifies a single person responsible for the units of work, the who, identifies monitoring points for measuring success, milestones. Most work packages should have a duration of approximately 80 hours or 10 business days, should have a completion date, a cost, a resource, and usually technical specifications. The work breakdown structure links to the organizational units who will be performing the work. The outcome of this process is the organizational breakdown structure. The organizational breakdown structure provides a framework to summarize organization work unit performance, identifies organization units responsible for work packages, and ties the organizational units to cost control accounts. This slide looks a lot like the earlier slide we discussed in regards to the work breakdown structure. The difference is the additional information at the bottom. You can see that the organization is listed on the left, followed by the different units. The units of the organization correspond with the work packages, indicating what organizational unit will be responsible for which work packages, thus integrating the organizational breakdown structure with the work breakdown structure. Step 5 in defining a project involves coding the work breakdown structure. This provides a numbering system so that each task can be organized into deliverables. It shows the levels and elements within the work breakdown structure, the work packages within, and provides budget and cost information. Coding the work breakdown structure allows reports to be consolidated at any level in the organization structure. This slide provides an example of what coding the work breakdown structure looks like within Microsoft Project. It is similar to an outline with the main topic or main deliverables listed as whole numbers. All other tasks are broken down within that topic deliverable. Each of the separately listed tasks within the deliverable will be listed with numbers after it. In this example, you'll see the main deliverable is labeled 1, eSlim tablet times 13 prototype. The necessary tasks to complete the tablet are listed below. They would be 1.1 hardware, 1.2 CPU, etc. Then those tasks are broken down into smaller tasks such as 1.1.1 cameras, 1.1.2 speakers, and so on. Here's an example of a product breakdown structure for a software development project. A project breakdown structure is a communication tool used throughout the life of the project. A well-formed product breakdown structure gives a visual view of the component products that are required for the project product, breaks down a complex product into more manageable component products, and improves communication and reduces misunderstanding. At the top is a software development project. That can be broken down into major phases. This example is highlighting the design phase. The design phase can be broken down into activities. For this example, it's broken down into develop technical design, and that can be broken down into smaller activities such as define processing flow. At the bottom is a list of the outputs for the major phases. This shows the design phase deliverables. A responsibility matrix summarizes tasks to be worked and who is responsible for the project work. They are typically used for smaller, less complex projects. It defines the responsibility of each resource or resource group. It highlights the critical interfaces between the units and the individuals that need coordination. It clearly shows all team member responsibilities and agreement on their assignments. This slide shows you what a responsibility matrix looks like. Each column is a heading, starting with the task name and moving to the individuals on the project team. The task is listed, and an R or S is marked in the appropriate cell. The R is for responsible. This is the person with overall responsibility for the task completion. The S is for supports assists. This is for the person or people who will help support or assist in the task completion. There can only be one person who is responsible for each task, but multiple people can be assigned to support or assist. Finally, you'll need to develop a communication plan. It is typically created very early in the project, and it's especially important that it be in place once the project deliverables and work have been clearly defined. This ensures the customer, team members, and other stakeholders will be provided with the information they need when they need it in order to do their jobs. It should contain a stakeholder analysis. This identifies different groups or people who need information to either make decisions or contribute to the project. Another element of the communication plan is the information needs. Certain people at various levels in the organization need summary information, while others require full details. The communication plan maps out who gets what. Sources of information are critical in identifying what types of information is available for dissemination. Disseminating modes describe the method in which the information will be sent. And finally, responsibility and timing describes who is responsible for dissemination and the frequency in which the communication will occur. Here's a completed project communication plan. You can see it answers the what type of information, who the information is intended for, when or how often, the method the information will be communicated, and who will be providing the information. We've spent time today discussing the steps and processes involved in defining a project. We talked about defining the project scope, establishing project priorities, creating the work breakdown structure, integrating the work breakdown structure with the organization, coding the work breakdown structure for the project, creating a responsibility matrix, and developing a communication plan. Next week, we'll be talking about estimating project times and costs. As always, please head on over to the discussion board for the weekly questions. I'd love to see some of you discussing your thoughts and opinions with each other. And of course, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to contact me. I'll be joining in on the discussion board as well.